If you go online, just type in any search engine, disappearing homeless, and you will get a multitude of links. All of these links pertain to local jurisdictions taking actions and measures against the homeless, even going so far as decreeing homelessness to be illicit, illegal, a crime, trying to move these people out of the area, trying to dispossess them of what little abodes that they have erected on public lands and elsewhere. And the growing suspicion is that these people are being invited, as an effect of being even more desperate by these actions, are being invited to be moved with the promise of food and shelter elsewhere. Now, trying to track down where these elsewheres are suggests that this might be the early stage of using FEMA camps, which is just another word for detention center for these people. This is an unsavory truth that we know exists, that they're there, and that they harbor all sorts of accommodations. This is in keeping with the trends that have been set to more or less militarize them and to place armed guards to prevent homeless people that have committed no crime, that are just there trying to survive, in some cases by the skin of their teeth, from the freedom of movement that they are guaranteed by the only social contract we have with these policy makers, and that's the Constitution of the United States of America. And I remind everyone that if they have sworn oaths in their oath of office to support the Constitution, their authority depends on that. They abolish the tenets of the Constitution and the freedoms that we enjoy guaranteed by the Constitution. They have abolished their authority over us. And despite any erection that they make to the contrary, that's the absolute truth. Gary, do you have any idea about how to try to reach people for more and more information so that we might be able to verify some of these reports these links are giving us?
Well, the problem is right now all we've really got is rumors. So what we're looking for is confirmation. It's almost like we're looking for an Edward Snowden to come forward, some insider who, knows exactly what's going on. We're looking for that person to find their conscience and grow a pair and tell us what's really going on. I mean, right now, all we really know for sure is that certain municipalities, for example, it's real popular in Hawaii right now to buy a homeless person a ticket back to the mainland and wash your hands of them. Good for Hawaii. They have your one-time fee and they're rid of the problem. They put it on somebody else. We know that Columbia, South Carolina has passed a city ordinance basically to restrict panhandling in the business district. Now, if I was a small business owner in the business district of that city, I would probably applaud the effort. If it's going to cause my business activity problems because I got panhandlers hanging out in front of my business establishment scaring away my trade, I would probably be congratulating the city fathers for passing such an ordinance. It's easy to come down hard on the business community when in fact they're trying to protect their business, their livelihoods, the livelihoods of the people that they employ. But, a lot of what we're seeing that we can verify is that everybody wants to make the homeless somebody else's problem. Move it someplace where I don't have to look at it so it doesn't offend me, so it's not in my face. As long as I don't have to see it, it's not a problem. And I would agree with you that it's probably just one more step from that to just, eliminate the problem entirely. We got this ex-camp out in the desert here where we used to hold Japanese during World War II. Let's just put the problem there so nobody has to be offended by it. Anyway, that's my take on it right now. Right now, we have no definite information that there's any skullduggery going on here. It's just simply a matter of municipalities wanting to move the problem to someplace where they can't see it.
Well, then again, this is done under the veil of secrecy, or we'd know more about it. And any time that in the past when there have been dislocations of people, whether it was in post-revolution Russia, whether it was under the Third Reich of Germany before World War II, this sort of activity, when practiced in secret and when local policy submits to it, has always led to some form of genocide. This may not be any exception. One of the things that smacks of my worst suspicions, that bolsters my worst suspicions, is that there are towns, municipalities, where laws are being enacted to make it a crime to feed the homeless. This is outrageous. And this would operate to make these people even more desperate and even more willing to be shuffled around to who knows where, and potentially a FEMA death camp. Let's say it. Let's say that these camps have a reason to be buying $1.5 billion hollow point bullets. This has been on several mass media documentaries about the police taking genocidal action against young boys that lived off of the trash heaps in Rio de Janeiro, killing them. There was no number given because probably they'd have the same problem here. These people don't comply with consensus. They wouldn't be on any list, have no address, so it would be easy for paramilitary forces to take actions like that. And in the case of what happened in Brazil, it's established they did. So if this is raising its ugly head here, we have the symptoms that these people are being placed, incarcerated, having committed no crime. And this has been an excellent prelude for Agenda 21 and the New World Order's professed intent towards depopulation. This would be the weakest group, the group that they could use experimentally to grease the wheels of these FEMA camps that they intend to dispose of human beings in and get away with it. So if that is what's going on, we need to get to the bottom of it. And any information that we can get to verify this one way or the other. Of course, we'd all rather believe that this was not a resort to genocide in the making, but I'm not so sure it isn't.
The administration, our government officials, as they like to be called nowadays, I'm old enough to remember when they used to be considered public servants, so I still choke on the words a little bit. Yes. But our government officials are patting themselves on the back because statistically, the homeless count in the United States is down about 150,000. Just before Obama's last election, I think about 2005-ish or so, there were statistics pulled and there was about 750,000 homeless. At least there were 750,000 that they could count. Now, they're patting themselves on the back because, there's only 600 and some thousand, and they consider that to be a major victory. Now, their explanation is that all these new progressive programs where they got the Section 8 vouchers and the food stamps and all the various government programs are providing the safety net that's getting these people at least into a reasonably comfortable abode where they can live safely and comfortably. And they're just absolutely patting themselves on the back over this. Now, it does seem to be Democrat-Republican. I mean, I'm not a big fan of either of the political parties. As far as I'm concerned, it's a choice between poo-poo and doo-doo. But it does seem to be that the homeless all stream out of the woodwork when a Republican comes into office, but they're all neat and tidy and comfortable when we have a Democratic administration. Now, I don't know the facts in this. I read the material that's published on both sides, and of course, anything that's published by my government, I am immediately suspicious of, but I'm still looking for some evidence, some little hint of evidence that there's some skullduggery going on here. So far, we've got no confirmed reports that these people are being rounded up and put into camps. We've got no confirmed evidence that they're being let out into the desert and just left there to be found 1,000 years from now by archaeologists who are going to wonder why the heck these people all seem to die of malnutrition out in the middle of the desert. We're not finding evidence of that. And I'm just wondering, am I missing it? Am I not seeing it? Or is it there and I'm just too blind to see?
Well, we have the people disappearing. That's a fact.
That's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, but we're talking about 200,000 people. that is epidemic loss. And there's got to be an explanation for it. And that there is not an explanation proffered by anyone is what sticks in my craw, as well as the desperation that's being forced on these people illegally. We have pundits coming straight from think tanks in this country that have published for the last 30 years what a wonderful thing depopulation would be. Not just the United States, but worldwide. This is a fact. When the Gulf of Mexico crisis was at its worst and people were beginning to suffer from breathing the Corexit that was coming in from the ocean breeze in the Atlantic side of Florida, at a military base just south of Fort Lauderdale were tens of thousands of UN vans out on the runway. You could use Earthlink or Google Earth and see them. So we started talking about a false flag and that this would be an impetus and a ruse for gathering people up for their own good and hauling them off to these camps. Well, it's definitely an information blackout. We have all these people that are missing, that are disappearing. We have homeless that are being moved around the country and no one's able to determine exactly where they're being moved to, but we know they're being moved. We have reports of them being put in camps that are guarded. We have all kinds of reports that are coming in, and we know that FEMA has been storing weapons and guns and these hollow cavity bullets that have no tactical use. They're for killing people that are unarmed at close range. They will not penetrate a vest. So what are they storing 1.5 billion of these bullets for? This is a question that nobody's answering, and of course we know what's going on. They're requisitioning this. At first I thought it might be just to keep patriots from being able to buy ammo, but no, I don't think so anymore. And it's not just FEMA, but it's other agencies of the government too. Agencies of the government that have never armed their people before. So something is in the wind. We have more and more discussions and even a bill before Congress that's tentative to what would happen if martial law was declared and every other word is classified. If it had any service for the public welfare, it would be guilty of being highly ineffectual. There are people that have been told that they would get trailers, that they would get housing in emergency situations, and FEMA's always the last people to pull up too late with trailers that they can't set up with one thing after another, because that's not their intention. That's not their priority. Their priority is to set these camps up and administer them. These camps have barbed wire, razor wire, and they have guard towers. We have seen pictures of them. We know they're there. What are they there for if they're not detention camps?
You know, it's interesting that people are watching the total destruction of the global economy.
So they'll pass this rule. It's, believe it or not, called martial law.
Pretty impressive, a display of international military might. Thousands of men and women from several different countries all landed on Camp Pendleton.
The FEMA camp bill allows the government to run at least 6 military installations when a national emergency is declared. These emergency centers would be run by FEMA under the command of the Secretary of Homeland Security.